Thank you for joining us today for the AIME Women's Mortgage Network Growth Series. This series is here for you to educate, inspire, and share your progress as we lift each other up to new levels. Ladies, we are almost at 1,700 WMN members, so let's keep inviting our fellow mortgage ladies. We have such great momentum going. On today's show, we have a very special guest, Garland Vance. He is the author of Gettin, Unbusy, which Forbes named one of the 7 books everyone on your team should read. He has been helping people and teams how to get clarity about their life and leadership over the last 20 years. He has helped clients that span from Fortune 500 companies to nonprofits how to stress less, accomplish more, and fulfill their highest priorities. Garland, thank you so much for joining us today. And let's
Laura,
jump right in. Here we are again, Garland.
Thrilled to be here. Always good to spend time with you.
My pleasure. Okay, Garland, we're going to jump right in because my ladies need help. They are feeling a little overwhelmed for good reason. For good reason. They're out there. They're helping so many families. They are making a difference in their local communities, and they have been working so diligently and just crushing it. So we need to help them, and we need to give them some guidance of how to have, I'm not even going to use the word balance. We're going to cross out balance, okay, because that's been overused.
Yep.
So the first thing I want to know, the difference between how men and women deal with busyness. Give me your perspective on that.
Yeah. So first, let's define busyness. Okay. Busyness is an overcommitment to too many good commitments. Nobody is busy because they're doing bad things, right? Unless you're a drug dealer or a dictator or something along those lines. Nobody's busy because of bad things. We're busy because of work, because of home, because now our kids are doing virtual school. We're busy because of community service activities that we're doing. So all of us, when we identify ourselves as being busy, what we're really saying is, I'm overcommitted to too many good commitments. And when you put all of those good commitments together, they end up becoming really bad for us. Now, what I see in women, especially with high achieving women, is that they will acknowledge they're busy. Okay. So a lot of times when I'm talking to a group of guys, if I talk about, hey, busyness is bad and it's doing damage to you, the men will just kind of shake their heads a lot of times. And they're kind of like this Superman complex, like, don't tell me that I'm too busy, right? I'm strong enough to handle this. What I see with women very often is that women will say, yes, I am busy. I am stressed. I am overwhelmed. I am exhausted. I'm trying to be great at everything that I do. And then they begin to share that it's this desire to be great at everything that drives so much of the busyness. So busyness is really coming from good intentions, but it has really bad outcomes if we keep up with it too long.
So, wow, that kind of like drops the bomb in the room. But now, so what do we do? So now, like you said, and I love that you kind of differentiated that a little bit, that the men are kind of, okay, yeah, yes, I'm busy. Okay. And they kind of move on. The women say, you're right. But what choice do we have?
Right.
We have to be mom, and we have to be wife, and we have to be great entrepreneur. And I'm running my own broker company, and I'm helping. Listen, what did I say? We're helping all these families. We're lowering rates. We're getting people into those first homes. What do we do? How do we handle all of this?
Yeah. So in the book I wrote, I take you through 5 steps. And what I would do right here is just begin to go into the first 2 steps. Okay. So step number one is that you have to decide that busyness isn't worth it. And the way that I encourage people to do that is to look at the physical, emotional, mental, and relational strain that busyness has on us, even the strain it has on our productivity, on entire organizations. And so I won't dive into all of those. The book dives into all of those pretty in depth, but the long and the short of it is, Laura, busyness is something that we hold up like it's really, really good, but it is doing massive damage to us. So the first thing that we have to do is decide to get unbusy. And by unbusy, what I mean is we're going to stress less and we're going to actually accomplish more. Okay. And then the second step is we begin to deconstruct. And particularly for the women who are a part of this network, I would encourage you to deconstruct some of the inhibiting beliefs. Inhibiting belief number one is probably this feeling that you should be doing more, right? You should be a better mom. You should be a better mortgage officer. You should be better in your neighborhood. You should be better. And there's this inhibiting belief that we have that says, I need to be more and therefore I need to do more. So let's just recognize for a second, if you're a parent who is thinking in the back of your mind, I really wish that I was a better parent, chances are you're a really good parent. Right. Because you're already wanting to be better. So it's okay to give yourself some self-compassion there. If you're sitting there and you're saying, hey, I want to be a really great entrepreneur. I want to be a really great mortgage officer. Okay, great. Chances are you're really good already because you have that chutzpah within you that wants to be better. So cut yourself some slack. And then the other thing that I would really encourage people to deconstruct during this time is deconstruct some of your commitments right now. It's okay for you in the midst of this time where interest rates are at an all-time low, where the number of people who are refinancing, myself included, just a couple of months ago, number of people who are refinancing is at an all-time high. It's okay and even good for you to say, there are some things that I'm not going to be able to do as well right now because I'm having to do this one part of my life so well and focused so much on this part of my life. So give yourself some grace to uncommit from some of those extra commitments that you've got right now.
And that really is a great way to look at it, right? I mean, and I can speak for the mortgage business, which I know you're not from my industry, but I can tell you, our industry is always cycles, ups and downs, right? I mean, obviously we know the cycle we're in right now. We don't see it turning anytime soon. We do anticipate that the rates are going to continue to be very low for quite some time. But you're right that we have to make these adjustments based upon what's happening at this time. And maybe we can't do every single thing that we were doing before, but we can focus on what we can focus on and help at this moment. Yeah. Okay, so Garland, our industry is very fast paced. At all times, people are, I need help right now. You know, it's one of those situations that when that email comes or that text message comes or that automated notice of an online application, we have to respond very quickly because, I mean, to be quite honest, on a sales side, if you don't, someone else will. Right. So you have to always do that. So with this being busy, how do you handle that also? Because we're almost saying, okay, cut yourself a break, but yet if I don't, well, my business may be negatively affected.
Yeah. So I would really encourage people to build what I call intentional transitions into their life. So an intentional transition is when you are changing from one role to another role. Okay. So whether that's from a work role to a home role or from a spouse or partner role to a parent role, anytime you're changing roles in your life, it helps to have a transition, a ritual that you've built in there. Now it's extra challenging right now because we're living at our office, and our kids are at the office, and their school is in our home. Everything is all in this one location. And because of that, I think it's critical to begin building intentional transitions. So here's what that might look like. Okay, I'm just going to fictionalize this a little bit. But if you are in this industry that requires you to respond very quickly, let's say you're having dinner with your family at the table, the phone rings, you need to pick it up. Create a little ritual with your family that helps you make a mental break and helps them make a mental break to mom's getting ready to go into work mode, right? So maybe everybody at the table puts their hands into the middle of the table. We stack them on top of each other and we all say, go to work, right? Something like that, break, boom, you're there. But it's a mental transition. And then when you come back, when you're ready to regroup into the family, you've got another transition. So again, it could be you all put your hands in the middle and say, mom's back, right? Or something along those lines. But just those little mental transitions can create a much smoother ability for you to switch back and forth between the different roles and still be fully present at both of those.
That is very fascinating. I actually have not heard that in all the different conversations about how to deal with that. I've never heard that, but it really does make complete sense to kind of have that switch over and then switch back.
Yeah. And we've done it in I'm not in the mortgage industry, but I understand, I'm in my office right now, which is downstairs. And as soon as I go upstairs, I'm in dad mode.
Yeah.
And I have 3 amazing kids and a wonderful wife. And so we've established some of these intentional transitions just so that I can make the mental switch from entrepreneur, consultant, author who's building his own business to dad who's fully present and, wanting to be with his family. So, for us, it's the transition. We listen to a song together. Okay. But that song is, just that 30-second clip of a song is our mental shift to dad is dad, not, Mr. Boss.
Yeah, I love that. I really do like that. I think that's great advice for the ladies. Thank you. Okay, we were speaking about seasons, right? And this kind of goes back to my mortgage cycles because I almost feel like the mortgage business is different seasons that you go through. And you were saying that, generally a season should last, I guess, the same as our weather seasons, right? Yeah. So why is it important to kind of transition into different seasons and not stay just in that busy season?
Yeah. Well, for me, I started noticing it when I would talk to people and I would, when I was first researching busyness and trying to figure out what's this actually doing to us. And I would say to people, are you busy? And then I would say, how long have you been busy? And they would say something like, well, it's, I'm just in a busy season. And so finally I started asking, well, how long has that busy season been? And they would kind of look up and go, well, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. Oh. And finally I would go, well, that's not a busy season. That's a climate change that's happened. You've adopted a busy lifestyle. So for most of us, a season lasts 3 to 4 months. Now it may look a little bit differently, right? As you're talking about in this season, but at some point there's going to be a downturn and it's not going to be quite as good. So it's critical for us to think in terms of, I'm in a season right now that's extremely busy. It's extremely hectic. Now, how do I prepare myself for the next season? Or if we don't see an end in mind, what's really important, especially, and I would say right now, it's really important, is to say, how do I build small changes in season into my life so that I can rest and I can recuperate and then go back full force?
Right. And we were speaking about that, the importance of that rest period.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've spoken over the last few weeks within the group is the importance of training support staff and bringing in new talent into the organization, because we all know as business owners, when you're busy, you usually say, I'm too busy to train. Yeah. I can't hire anybody because I'm so overwhelmed. It's just easier if I just do it myself. And that's absolutely the wrong way to look at that. Okay, right. So let's speak about that too. In terms of our busyness, sometimes we get so caught up in the moment of this season that we're not necessarily preparing for the future. for
Yes.
our dreams and our priorities. And of course, these ladies, I told you, the ladies are a part of this group. They're quite awesome and they're doing amazing things and they have lots of dreams and lots of things to do. So how do we also, during this busy time, how do you also focus on those dreams and priorities for our future?
Yeah, so I would say this is actually step 3 in the Getting Unbusy process. And that's when we begin to design. So after you've decided to get unbusy, you deconstruct inhibiting beliefs and bad habits and unwanted commitments. Then you go into this design phase. And I think, especially for those who are listening, the best practice that you can get in is a change of calendar. Okay. It's actually a pretty simple practice. But when I was researching busyness, and for me, one of the things was I wanted to continue being a high achieving person. Like that was important to me, not to get unbusy and then twiddle my thumbs and not do anything. I wanted to continue achieving a whole lot. And so I started researching highly productive but unbusy people, people who worked at a sustainable pace, who had great relationships with their kids, who were involved in their community, and yet at the same time weren't doing so much that they were stressed, overwhelmed, and exhausted. Okay. And what I found in those people, highly productive, unbusy people, is that they treated their calendars a little bit differently. What they did is they scheduled rest, relationships, recreation, and reflection into their calendars first and built everything else around that. So rest, are you getting sleep that you need? Are you taking naps if you have a chance, or even just mental rest? Like, are you giving yourself the ability to escape, get into your room a little bit, turn down the lights, make a hot cup of tea and just relax your mind for a little bit? So rest. Relationships. Who are the most important people in your life and how are you building time with them? And who are the most energizing people in your life? Because sometimes the most important people are the least energizing, especially if you have young kids. All right. So how are you building time in your life for the most important and the most energizing people? Recreation. Do you have time built in your calendar for things you love to do for the sheer sake of doing them, just enjoying them? Right now I'm reading, I'm just tearing through some Agatha Christie books.
That's fun.
Yeah, not because Agatha Christie is helping me professionally, but for me, it's a recreational activity of just, I really like a good murder mystery. Okay, I'm gonna read this. So I have time built into my schedule to read Agatha Christie books right now. And then the final one, and this is where dreams and priorities are so important, is reflection. Are you taking time once a day, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, to ask yourself 3 really simple but important questions? What did I accomplish yesterday, right? Kind of looking back, because you're making a lot of progress, but it doesn't feel like it. Right. So what did I accomplish yesterday? What am I grateful for today? And then the third is, if I could do yesterday differently, what would I do? And those 3 questions really help recenter you on the dreams and the priorities that you have, the way that you're spending your time. But because of that gratitude question, they also do a wonderful job at helping you see what's really good in your life in the midst of a really chaotic season.
I like that. And that's so important. And a lot of these ladies are building teams right now because they are so busy, and they absolutely are doing that. What do you recommend? What's something they can do to help their teams to also not get caught up in that busy cycle?
Yeah. So this is really step 5, right? So we talk about, so step 5 of the book is you draw others in. You draw in your family, your friends, and your coworkers. And what I would say is, first thing that you can do with your team is talk about busyness. Talk about it as, don't let it be a good word. It's a bad word in our family. We, like my youngest son will say, "Did you just say the B word?" And we found out that the B word was busy. But talk about busyness in your teams, because you want your team to get in the mentality of, this isn't good. We don't need to brag about this. This is hurting us. And then the second thing that you can do with your team is what I call a SIM exercise, SIMM. And it's where you look at the season that you're in and the priorities that your organization has, and you ask 4 questions. What should we stop doing? right? Is there a project we were working on that we're trying to keep moving forward and it's just not the right time to do it because things are too chaotic? What should we stop doing? What should we initiate? Is there anything new that we should start working on right now based on where we are in the world? Okay. Now, the things that you initiate are the things that are going to typically take the most energy. So you want that list to be really small so that you can give energy to a very few number of things that you can do. The third is, what should we maintain? What is good enough right now? And this is hard for high achievers to acknowledge, that sometimes good enough is good enough in a whole lot of areas. So we're going to stop some things. We're going to start some things. We're going to maintain some things. We're just going to stay committed that this is good enough right now. And then finally, the last one is there anything we should maximize? Is there anything that we're currently doing that we can make small improvements to make better so that we can achieve those high priorities right now? That's a really helpful list. And if your team can't come up with anything that you should stop, don't let them move on any further. First, you say, no, what should we stop doing? Whether that's a meeting that we should stop having or one that we should only have every other week, there's got to be some things that you stop. But those 4 SIMM can really help leaders draw people into an unbusy kind of conversation.
I love that. And I think that's great advice. And, as they're going through this busy season right now, you do have to analyze all of that. I mean, those are key things to review. Awesome. Yeah. Garland, this was priceless. This was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much once again. Please share with the ladies where they can get your book, where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, so the book, I'll hold it up just so you can see. So the book, Gettin Unbusy, 5 Steps to Kill Busyness and Live with Purpose, Productivity, and Peace. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere along those lines, or you can go to Gettin Unbusy book. So Gettin, no G on the end. You can see gettinunbusybook.com. And you can actually download some free chapters from there. And there's a free assessment you can take to see if you're too busy.
Yes. And the book is wonderful. It's a very simple book to get through. It is not a difficult book. It's very helpful. I will tell you, from the mortgage perspective, I certainly connected to a lot of it in there. So great job on the book. It's always a pleasure. We wish you all the best. And thank you for sharing with us today.
Thanks so much, Laura.
All right. It is challenge time. This week, we want you, obviously, to think about how we can get unbusy. So we want you to have those discussions with your teams. Really think about what you can maneuver and think about to get to not being this badge of honor of being busy. So that's our challenge. Wishing everyone a wonderful week. And on next week's show, we actually have 3 women in technology that are going to come and have a discussion with us about what that is like within the mortgage industry. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week.